Hello, dragonflies. Today's story is called The World Came to My Place Today. We can't go out to many places right now, but you'll be surprised of how much of the world is actually in your own house. Let's have a look and see what happened to George. Here's George. He's holding the globe. It's that sphere shape right over there. And it's got all the countries of the world. Let's see how much of the world is in your house. Here's a map of the world. This one's flat. It's easier to see the countries that we know. The world is actually a sphere. It's like the globe that we've got hanging in Dragonfly class. And here's the story. The world came to our place today. And it's written by Joe Redman. And here's George. Flora's got spots all over, and that means George can't go out today. Never mind, said Grandpa. Look, I've brought the world to your place instead. And there's poor Flora, who's got the spots, and Grandpa, who's brought the world into his house. I wish the world could really come to visit me, Grandpa, sighed George. It already has, said Grandpa. The rice in your cereal came from China, and the oranges in your juice grew in sunny Spain. So look, here's the orange juice, and the orange plant is here. It comes from trees. They grow in warm places like Spain, or even in the United States of America and California. And here is a rice plant. Can you see, if we look really, really close, there's little grains on there, a bit like wheat, but that's rice, and it grows in places like India and China. We've looked at India and China in our year when we did Diwali and the Chinese New Year. That's what rice looks like. Barked Buster as the postman delivered the letters. Careful, Buster, said Grandpa. That paper grew on trees in Canada. Well, the paper didn't, but paper comes from wood, which grows on the tree trunks or in the trees that grow in places like Canada. And look, even this doormat. Doormat is made from coconuts. Really, said George. Doesn't look like a coconut. But look, here's a coconut. And that grows in warm places, again, like India, on very, very tall trees, like this one, a palm tree. And people actually climb up to those tall trees. They climb up to the top and throw the coconuts down on the sand. And you can see you can eat the coconut, or you can drink the milk from the coconut, and then you can use the hair on the coconut to make your doormat. Maybe you've got a doormat like that at home. Whee! I'm off around the world on my bike now, said George. Well, why not visit Malaysia, says Grandpa. It might be quicker to go down the garden and dig up a potato, though. That's what your crisps are made from. And there's a bag of crisps that George has. And here is a tree. It's a rubber tree in Malaysia. And you can see there's a little tap on the tree there. And they hammer that tap in, and out drips a liquid that is actually rubber. And then you can make lots of things from the rubber, including the wheel from your tyre on your bicycle. And the crisps, we know we can grow potatoes in this country. They grow in lots of other countries as well. They grow under the ground. At lunchtime, they all had pizza. I don't like olives, said George. Ooh, Buster does. Maybe he knows they've travelled all the way from Greece. But the rest of the pizza is made from wheat, and wheat can come from the United States of America, but it also comes from England. We've seen lots of this. When we did Harvest Time, the little red hen, we saw wheat in our class, and that's what it looks like when it grows. It grows in lots of places around the world and makes all sorts of things like flour, which helps us make bread, cakes, biscuits, all the things we like. And here are the olives, which grow on trees in warm places like Spain and Italy. If you've got olives in your house, they wouldn't have come from this country. Ding dong! The supermarket delivery came. The world really had come to George's place today. George helped to unpack. He started by checking to see if the chocolate tasted okay. Good move, George. I think I would have done the same. So let's see what they had in their shopping. First of all, they had bananas, and you can see the bananas grow together in little trees like that, little bushes. And then you've got, oh, there's a bunch of bananas. Then you've got lemons. And the lemons can be used in cooking, we can eat them, or they can also be used to flavour things like washing up liquid, not that we eat that, but to make them smell nice. Then we've got sunflower oil. Now sunflower oil that we use to fry food actually comes from the seeds in the middle of the sunflower. And we've got a tin of baked beans. Now those beans don't begin in the can, they actually start their life on a plant. They're haricot beans and they grow on plants that look like that. And then one of my favourites, coffee. The coffee that you've got in your houses actually starts off also in little beans like this. And they're taken off, they're picked, and they're dried and become the coffee that we have in our kitchens. And it's grown in all sorts of places like South America and in Africa. Don't look much like the coffee granules that we're used to though, do they? Look what I've made, Grandpa, says George. I'm going to sail the high seas. Can I come too? Said Grandpa. We should go to West Africa. That's where we'll find cocoa beans grow. Now, cocoa beans, that is one of my favourites. Cocoa is where chocolate comes from. And chocolate actually starts its life as well on a tree. And that is what the cocoa bean looks like, or the cocoa pod. And what they do is they pick those big pods, and then they've got seeds inside, like little beans, and that's where the chocolate comes from. And that grows in very hot places like Africa. Poor Grandpa. He was getting tired swinging Flora. Luckily, the rope on the swing is strong, and it was made in Africa. So it's made from, there's the rope, but it actually comes from the sisal plant. So there's a sisal plant. It looks like that, and all the little stringy bits on that are then plaited or woven together to get the rope. But George is busy playing elsewhere. He's got his little wooden train, and his little wooden train came from the trees which grow in places like Poland. So places like where Dominic comes from. There you go. Mum's home, shouted George, and she's brought us some sweets. Sugar from Brazil, said Grandpa, and licorice from France. Now, where can I get a nice cup of tea? Said Mum. Sri Lanka, said Grandad. So look, there's the licorice that we like, that comes from France. Well, I like it. And that is the sugar cane. So sugar also grows on plants like that, on cane. And there, doesn't look like it, that is a tea leaf. And it grows in places like India and Sri Lanka, China. And it dries off in the sun, in the hot sun. Sometimes they put it into bags, and that's how we end up making our cup of tea. At supper time, Grandpa needed a rest. Even though Grandpa's asleep, whispered George, the world hasn't stopped coming to our place, has it, Mum? No, said Mum. Look at the tomatoes in your soup. They come from Italy. Now, we can grow tomatoes. Maybe some of you have tomatoes growing in your garden. But actually, the warmer the place they grow, the sweeter the tomatoes are. So a place like Italy is a really good place to grow tomatoes because they're nice and warm. And then we can eat them, or we can make pasta sauces from them. Or like George, you can have them in tomato soup. George took his globe into the bathroom. Time to brush your teeth now, said Mum. Smell the mint on the toothpaste. You can grow mint in your garden, you know. But George was busy showing Flora his ship carrying spices across the bubbly Indian Ocean. Well, you can see the bubbles there in the bath, can't you? And spices could be cinnamon, they could be all sorts of things that we use, pepper, things that we use in our cooking. Now, when George got out the bath, he used a towel, and the towel is made from cotton. And there's a cotton flower. In the middle of it, over there, can you see the white bit? So that white bit is nice and fluffy. It's a bit like cotton wool. And if you take it out, it makes a lovely, fluffy bit of material that we use to make towels or some of our food. Some of our clothes. All comes from that very small little flower there. And then here's a toothpaste. The mint flavour comes from mint. Now, I grow this in my garden. You might have some in yours. You can certainly buy it in supermarkets. But again, mint comes from a flower. If you've got some in your garden, just take a little bit and rub it in your finger, then hold it to your nose. See if you can smell the mint. I liked it when the world came to my place today, said George sleepily. Will it come again tomorrow? Mum kissed him good night. Of course it will, she said. The world comes to your place every day. And here's a map of the world. That's the end of the story, dragonflies. Have a look in your houses. See what you can find. See whether the world came to your house today. I'm sure it did. Let me know what you found. See you next time. Bye for now, dragonflies.